Have you ever encountered a woman who doesn't just walk into a room, but seems to shift the entire atmosphere with her presence, like a calm breeze or a fierce storm? The kind of woman who, long after she's gone, lingers in your mind with a quiet, powerful question. What was it about her, ladies and gentlemen, in a world obsessed with noise, with flashy entrances and louder voices? There exist two kinds of women. There are women who drift through life like a gentle breeze, barely noticed, leaving no lasting impression. And then there are women who move like a storm, steady, unshakable, unforgettable. I'm not speaking of outward beauty, fancy clothes, or impressive social status. No, I'm talking about rare, timeless traits. Qualities so profound that they cause men to lie awake at night, wondering, why can't I forget her? There is a kind of woman whose very being alters the energy of every space she enters. Not because she demands attention with bold gestures or seeks the spotlight with loud words. Not because she flaunts beauty or carefully curated charm. But because she carries something almost lost in this world, real, authentic grace. A grace so deep and unshakable that it cannot be faked, bought, or manufactured. This grace isn't a costume she slips on for certain crowds or occasions. It isn't a performance perfected to earn praise. It's a spirit anchored in unwavering dignity and quiet humility that makes people pause, mid-sentence, turn their heads and wonder. A graceful woman doesn't strive for applause. She doesn't chase after fleeting validation from others. She doesn't have to, because she knows exactly who she is, and even more importantly, whose she is. Grace, you see, is not weakness. It's not about soft words or a timid head, bowed simply to please. Grace is the embodiment of strength, restrained power, under control, fire wrapped in velvet. It's the fierce power to speak truth with authority while deliberately choosing gentleness. It's the rare ability to carry herself with regal confidence without ever crossing into arrogance. A graceful woman doesn't need to dominate a conversation or prove herself right in every argument. She doesn't have to raise her voice or fight for the last word. She wins hearts simply by existing as she is unapologetically. Her calm peace is louder than the surrounding chaos, and her serene stillness drowns out the world's constant shouts. In a culture obsessed with chasing the next shiny thing, she quietly clothes herself in unwavering confidence. While others scramble for filters, hashtags, and fleeting fame, she leans on faith, a faith that makes her unshakable. Do you know what happens when a woman like this crosses your path? She becomes unforgettable. Men may meet countless women in their lifetimes, but it's the one who carried herself with steady dignity. The one who listened more than she spoke, the one who stood tall, not in boastful pride, but in quiet assurance. That's the woman who stays etched in their memory. That's the one who steals their sleep as they replay every word and gesture in their minds. Because a woman of true grace is as rare as a precious gem and far more valuable. She doesn't stoop to games or manipulation. She doesn't lower herself with mind tricks or shallow strategies to get noticed. She doesn't hunger for cheap attention or shallow praise. When she walks into a room, she doesn't demand the spotlight to swing her way. She is the light. Not because she sparkles with superficial flash, but because she radiates something divine, something otherworldly that catches hearts off guard. There's a glow in her eyes, but it doesn't come from any mirror makeup or camera filter. It's a light that shines from deep within, a reflection of her maker, not her own efforts. Her smile doesn't seduce with empty charm. It soothes weary souls with warmth and sincerity. Her presence doesn't provoke tension or jealousy. It comforts those who feel unseen. Her voice doesn't flatter to manipulate. It guides with gentle truth, offering clarity and peace. She doesn't walk through life hoping to be worshipped. She moves as one who knows how to worship. Each step she takes is grounded in gratitude. Every word she speaks is seasoned with grace. Every action she makes reveals a heart committed to something greater than herself. Because here's the truth. Real grace isn't about dazzling spectacle, it's about unshakable substance. And it's that substance, that quiet strength, that dignified humility, that consistent kindness which draws people in and makes them long to be near her again and again. Picture it in a world where everyone shouts their opinions, she chooses to listen. In a culture that thrives on quick anger, she offers patience. In an age obsessed with self-promotion, she lives to uplift others. While others parade their curated lives on screens, she builds a life of depth unseen by most. And that quiet confidence, the knowledge that her worth is not determined by trends but by timeless truth, makes her presence magnetic. Because the world is desperately hungry for authenticity, and she offers it in abundance. The world is parched for peace, and her calm is like fresh water in a desert. The world aches for love that isn't self-serving, and she extends it without asking for anything in return. So gentlemen, if you've ever wondered why one woman out of 1,000 stays burned into your mind, it's because she walked in grace. And ladies, if you long to be remembered, not for what you wore or how you looked, but for the peace and light you carried, pursue grace. Because in the end it's not charm that lingers, nor beauty that endures. It's grace fierce, yet tender, quiet, yet powerful, humble, yet unshakably confident. And that, my friends, is what makes a woman truly unforgettable. It speaks straight to the soul, doesn't it? Because grace whispers to every heart. You don't have to strive so desperately just to be noticed. You don't have to exhaust yourself proving you're worthy of love. Grace offers a place of rest in a restless, frantic world. It invites you to lay down your masks and breathe. And when a man encounters a woman who carries this rare grace, it disrupts him in the best possible way. It undoes him not because he feels small or weak, but because he suddenly glimpses a strength unlike anything the world parades on stages or flaunts in headlines. Look around, and you can find beauty everywhere, perfect smiles, flashing on screens, alluring curves, selling every product. Filters, making ordinary faces seem extraordinary with a swipe. But Grace is a different treasure entirely. Grace is holy. It's rooted in unshakable identity, not shifting insecurity. It's birthed in knowing who you are and whose you are. And when a woman carries real grace, she doesn't merely turn heads, she turns hearts. She awakens something deep inside, something many men don't even realize they've lost, until they see it reflected in her calm, her quiet confidence. So many people are out there trying to impress, trying to outshine, trying to outdo everyone else by being louder, bolder, or bigger. But the woman of grace doesn't need to chase any of that. She understands a powerful truth. What is planted deep grows strong. What is rooted in eternal truth bears fruit at just the right time. She knows that depth matters more than volume, that faithfulness outlasts flash. That's what makes her unforgettable. That's why long after the lights dim and the noise fades, she still lingers in the minds of those who've crossed her path. Because in a world drowning in shallow flash and artificial sparkle, she shows something real, something lasting, something eternal. She shows him what he didn't even know he was missing, a reflection of heaven in a human frame. And once a man has glimpsed that, once he's felt the peace and quiet strength radiating from a woman of grace, he can't go back to the empty shadows he once chased. He can't unsee the beauty of substance over spectacle. There's a kind of woman this world doesn't celebrate nearly enough anymore, a woman who isn't chasing applause, who refuses to bow to the fleeting trends of every passing hour, who stands tall, anchored in something deeper, something sacred that doesn't shift with opinions or cultural tides. This woman doesn't need to announce her arrival when she steps into a room. Her very presence speaks volumes. Her stillness carries a weight that noise can never match. She walks with grace, not the kind you buy with money, or fake with clever words, but the kind forged in the hidden places of life. Forged in long nights of prayer, in quiet mornings of reflection, in seasons of waiting where no one was watching but God alone. And this kind of grace isn't about performing for approval. It's about possessing power and choosing to wield it gently. Because real grace is power under perfect control. It's kindness with unshakable boundaries. It's elegance that doesn't seek the spotlight, yet somehow attention can't help but find her. Why? Because in a world swirling with chaos, her calm becomes a magnet. In a culture addicted to shallow charm, her deep character draws people like a lighthouse, draws ships from the storm. She doesn't need to raise her voice to command respect. Her life itself is a clear, unwavering message. She listens with her eyes, truly hears the person before her, and carries herself with a dignity that speaks louder than 1,000 words ever could. Her quiet composure demands respect without ever demanding it outright. But don't let her gentle nature fool you. Don't mistake her calm for weakness. Behind her serene exterior is a heart of fierce, unyielding conviction. This is not a woman who bends to every shifting opinion or lives for the fleeting approval of others. Her values are etched in stone, not written in sand. Her sense of worth comes from something eternal, not from temporary praise. She knows who she is, and that knowledge sets her free. She refuses to measure her value against what she sees on social media or hears in gossip. She knows life is not a competition to outshine others, but a calling to reflect light. And when she speaks, she does so with quiet authority, never needing to belittle others to feel tall. When she moves, she does so with purpose, never drifting aimlessly or seeking hollow validation. Because the woman of grace has learned a secret, still waters run deep. She knows that gentleness and strength are not opposites, but perfect partners. She understands that patience often speaks louder than impulsiveness, that faithfulness makes a greater impact than flare-ups of passion. She doesn't need to constantly prove herself because her worth has already been established by the one who formed her. In moments of conflict, she doesn't resort to cutting words or dramatic exits. She brings calm into chaos, clarity into confusion. In conversations, she doesn't need to dominate. She listens with compassion, offering wisdom wrapped in humility. And in a world full of noise where everyone is clamoring to be heard, her peace cuts through the clamor like a gentle, undeniable force. That's the kind of woman who makes hearts remember. That's the kind of grace that keeps people wondering long after she's gone. What was it about her? It wasn't a show. It wasn't a facade. It was real. And in a world that often settles for shallow impressions, encountering the real thing is like a breath of fresh air, a glimpse of heaven in an ordinary day. Her standards are unshaken by pressure or sweet words meant to sway her. She has anchored her life on solid rock, not on the shifting sands of trends or fleeting opinions. She knows who she is, and just as importantly, she knows who she is not. And she has no desire to pretend otherwise. When the world around her begins to waver, when voices whisper for her to let go of her convictions, to loosen up, to compromise, just this once she stands firm. Not out of stubborn pride, but rooted in unchanging truth. A woman with real conviction is a rare and precious sight. She doesn't merely hold beliefs in her mind. She lives them out in her choices, her words, her relationships. You won't catch her bending her principles to blend into the crowd. You won't find her watering down her values just to keep a man or please people. She would rather walk alone, steady and unashamed in the light, than join a crowd dancing in darkness. That kind of courage, that quiet yet fierce spiritual backbone, sets her apart in a world that prizes conformity. And it's exactly that kind of difference that makes a man pause. It's what keeps him replaying their conversation long after it's ended. Because he's not just intrigued by her, he's convicted by her. She doesn't wield her voice to manipulate or control, but when she speaks, her words carry undeniable weight. She doesn't flash her convictions around like weapons, but when the moment demands it, she does not flinch or shrink back. Her yes means yes, her no means no. She stands by her word, even when it costs her something. While others twist themselves into knots, trying to please everyone to be everything to everyone, she remains content, confident in simply being who she was created to be. And that kind of woman, graceful, yet grounded, unwavering, yet gentle, is unforgettable. She leaves a mark on hearts not because she clamored for attention or tried to impress, but because she steadfastly refused to fake it. She radiates authenticity in a world drowning in imitation and pretense. She embodies a quiet strength wrapped in humility, a presence that reminds you of something older, deeper, something eternal. And when a man encounters a woman like her, he doesn't leave unchanged. She may not be the loudest voice in the room, but her presence lingers long after she's gone. She might not sparkle with outward flash, but her peace leaves a lasting impression. And when he lays his head down at night, it's not merely her image that keeps him awake. It's the weight of her presence, the memory of her steady confidence, the realization that he's glimpsed something rare, something profoundly real. There's a kind of woman who doesn't announce herself with noise, but with presence. She doesn't need to prove anything because she already knows who she is. And her spirit remains calm, unshaken by the chaos of the world around her. Her posture remains steady and unshaken, like a tree rooted deep against the strongest winds. Her grace speaks volumes far louder than any outfit she could wear or any title she could claim. She doesn't sparkle with flashiness or chase the spotlight, yet she is utterly unforgettable. Why? Because she walks with a kind of beauty that cannot fade and a kind of quiet dignity that makes you notice her, not because she's trying to be seen, but precisely because she's at peace with not being the center of attention. And that peace, it's magnetic. It draws eyes and hearts alike, not through spectacle, but through something deeper, something real. Because grace isn't weakness, despite what the world might say. Grace is power clothed in humility. It's the quiet strength to lift others up without ever lowering yourself in the process. It's the ability to stand firm for what's right, without making those around you feel small or belittled. And when a woman moves through life with that kind of grace, the world doesn't just admire her from afar, it wonders about her. People don't simply notice her, they remember her. Because she reveals what it means to be unwavering in a world that can't seem to stop shaking. She shows that stillness is not the same as silence, that calmness doesn't mean absence of voice. Instead, it's proof of deep strength beneath the surface. She teaches that gentleness isn't a lack of power, but the clearest evidence of it. Yet this woman isn't just graceful, she's profoundly grounded. Her convictions aren't something she puts up for sale or discards when things get uncomfortable. She can't be swayed by flattery that tries to puff up her ego, nor does she cower before pressure designed to break her resolve. She refuses to drift along with the current if it's flowing toward compromise. Her life is anchored to something infinitely higher than popular opinion, something far stronger than shifting cultural trends. While many people mold their values to match the mood of the room they're in, she carries her standards like a compass that never loses true north. She knows exactly where she's going, and she knows which paths simply aren't worth the price of trading her integrity along the way. Because of that steadfastness, men don't merely notice her, they respect her. Even if they never say it out loud deep down, they know the truth. This is a woman you don't play games with. This is a woman you don't try to impress with flashy words or empty promises, Because she sees right through the performance. She isn't swayed by who can shout the loudest or who can put on the grandest show. She looks for truth, and truth alone. Her yes means yes. Her no means no. And if you try to pull her into anything less than what's worthy of her calling, she'll offer a calm smile, turn on her heel, and walk away without regret. But don't confuse her unwavering convictions with coldness or hardness of heart. Because this woman, for all her quiet strength, possesses a heart that is tender beyond measure. She sees wounds others overlook. She notices hurt that hides behind forced smiles. And instead of recoiling from another's pain, she leans into it, unafraid of the messiness that real compassion demands. When she opens her mouth to speak, her words don't just sound good, they carry healing power. Her compassion isn't weakness. It's a form of warfare against the bitterness and cynicism of this world. She breaks through walls built by years of hurt, not by force or intimidation, but by patient, relentless love. She doesn't offer kindness because she wants applause or recognition. She gives because it's woven into the very fabric of who she is. And when you've had the privilege of being near her, you don't just feel momentarily comforted. You feel deeply cared for. You feel truly seen. That kind of compassion is disarming. It melts the defenses of even the hardest, most guarded heart. The man who has grown numb to hope, the man who's been burned one too many times, the man who decided long ago that good women no longer exist. When he encounters her, his convictions crumble. He realizes he was wrong. Because her kindness isn't a carefully crafted act. It's raw, honest, and real. And the impact of meeting a woman like this lingers. Long after the conversation ends, long after the moment passes, he remembers the safety of being in her presence. He remembers the comfort of being understood without having to explain every detail. He remembers the quiet yet profound call to rise above who he has been, to step into the man he could become. That's why she is unforgettable. Not because of how she looked or what designer clothes she wore, but because of who she was at her core. She was a woman of grace, unshakably grounded in truth, overflowing with genuine compassion. She never demanded to be remembered or fought for attention. She earned her place in people's hearts simply by being exactly who she was, created to be unapologetically authentic, fiercely faithful, and beautifully herself. There's a kind of woman this world simply cannot forget. It's not because she's the loudest voice in the room, or because she's constantly trying to draw every eye to herself. No, it's quite the opposite. It's because something about her quiet, unwavering presence makes the world pause, makes the noise around her fade, makes hearts remember what peace feels like. You don't notice her because she's performing or putting on a show. You notice her because she moves with a peace so profound the world can't counterfeit it. Her grace isn't something you see in the way she sways or the way she poses. It's in how she carries herself, how she treats others with dignity, and how she stands strong when everything else around her is trembling. You see it in the way she holds her tongue when everyone else rushes to speak first, desperate to be heard. You see it in how she brings a calm steadiness where chaos could so easily take over. She doesn't scramble for the spotlight, but somehow the light finds her because her spirit quietly shines brighter than any staged performance. And in a time when so many people are loud for all the wrong reasons, she becomes unforgettable by simply walking through life with quiet strength and unshakable peace. But don't mistake her gentleness for passivity or weakness. Her grace stands firmly on a foundation of unwavering conviction. She's not someone who bends with every breeze of opinion or shifts with every new trend that promises to make her relevant. Her values aren't something she alters to keep everyone comfortable or to win superficial approval. She believes what she believes because she has built her entire life on the solid rock of truth. She doesn't lower her standards just to keep company. She doesn't blur her boundaries to fit in or compromise her integrity for fleeting acceptance. While many around her are running frantically to chase what's popular or trendy, she's standing tall on what's right and eternal. Her soul is simply not for sale. And that kind of strength, moral, spiritual, immovable, is more than just rare. It's revolutionary in a world addicted to the shallow and the temporary. Men don't lie awake at night thinking about women who blend in perfectly, who echo whatever the crowd says, who lose themselves trying to please everyone. They remember the ones who stand out, not because they were rebellious for the sake of attention, but because they were righteous. Not because they were arrogant or self-important, but because they were courageously authentic. And when a man crosses paths with a woman who possesses that kind of backbone, that quiet, steady fire, he cannot forget her. Because in a world full of empty promises, shifting morals, and shaky foundations, she is solid ground. She is a lighthouse in the storm, a steady hand in the chaos. Yet what makes her even more extraordinary is what lies beneath that unwavering strength, her heart. Beneath her unbending resolve beats a compassion so deep it reaches places words alone cannot. She doesn't just see people with her eyes, she feels them with her soul. Her kindness isn't shallow or performative. It doesn't stop at polite words or a quick smile. It runs deep, reaching into places of pain and loneliness that most people hurry past. She touches the hurting without making them feel weak or small. She embraces the broken without rushing to fix or judge them. She listens, really listens, in a way that makes others feel like they truly matter, like their stories are worth hearing, like their hearts are safe with her. And when she speaks, her words don't merely impress with cleverness. They bring healing like cool water on a burning wound. Her words remind people that goodness still exists in the world, that grace isn't some forgotten relic of the past, and that there is still someone who genuinely cares. That kind of compassion breaks down walls no argument ever could. It melts defenses hardened by years of disappointment. It restores hope to hearts that were sure hope had died. But even that isn't the end of her beauty. What truly baffles the world, what makes people lean in with wonder, is her joy. Not a joy that depends on everything going her way, but something deeper, something unshakable. After all, it was her deep, unwavering joy, tested and true, that left the greatest mark on every heart she touched. Not the kind of joy that depends on perfect circumstances, comfort, or control. No, her joy was something altogether different. It was bold, almost defiant. It laughed right in the face of fear. It rose strong and unbroken, even in the middle of pain. It didn't pretend life was flawless, but it declared with quiet courage that life was still good, still worth celebrating. Her smile wasn't shallow or forced. It was rooted deep in something eternal. Her laughter wasn't hollow or fleeting. It had been tested by storms, and yet somehow still found its song. And when you encounter that kind of joy, real, unshakable, holy joy, you can't forget it. That kind of woman, the one who is graceful, grounded, compassionate, and radiant with genuine joy, isn't just admired for a moment. She is etched permanently into memory. Not because she demanded attention or worked to make herself unforgettable, but because she lived with such quiet strength and authenticity that forgetting her would simply be impossible. She didn't strive to stand out, she just did, because every part of her life spoke of a deeper truth, a truth this world is starving for, the truth that joy doesn't come from getting everything you want, but from standing firm in who you are and whose you are. And when a man meets a woman like that, when he tastes the rare beauty of a soul so alive he remembers. Long after the noise of the world fades, long after physical beauty shifts with time, he lies awake thinking about her because she was different. And she was different Because she was real. There's a kind of woman who lingers in the mind long after she's gone. Not because she put on a show or chased the spotlight, but because she carried something deeper than surface-level charm. She didn't need to raise her voice to command a room yet. When she spoke, people leaned in to listen. Her presence was calm, steady, almost holy in its quiet confidence. It wasn't her clothes, her status, or her fleeting beauty that left an impact. It was her grace, real grace, the kind that moves differently, the kind that seems to shift the very air when she walks into a room. She didn't need attention to make a difference. Her strength was soft-spoken, but it made the loudest noise of all. The way she carried herself, gentle, yet firm, humble, yet strong, commanded deep respect from men used to everything but genuine depth. She had conviction, too, the kind that didn't sway just because the crowd changed direction. She never compromised her beliefs to keep peace or fit in. She knew what was right, and she stood her ground. Even if it meant standing alone, she chose to stay rooted when others bent to pressure. Her standards weren't for sale, and her convictions weren't shaped by trends. She didn't need to preach loudly. You could feel her integrity woven into every choice she made. In a world obsessed with shifting and blending to belong, she stood out simply by refusing to move from her values. That alone made her unforgettable, because a woman who knows her worth and lives her truth without apology stirs something deep in a man's soul. She reminds him of what's rare truth that doesn't flinch or fade. Yet she wasn't cold or distant. Her strength made space for tenderness. Her heart was open, and her compassion reached far beyond the surface. She was quick to listen, slow to judge. She looked at people not through them. She noticed those the world ignored. She offered comfort without pretending she could fix every wound. Her love wasn't showy or dramatic. It was quiet, faithful, consistent, and in that steadfastness, walls fell. Her compassion wasn't some sentimental gesture. It was a healing force. Men who had spent years building barriers around their hearts realized they didn't need to perform for her. They didn't need to impress. They could simply be themselves. And that kind of mercy, that kind of steadfast grace, etches a woman into a man's memory forever. And then, even deeper than her compassion, was her joy. Not the fragile kind that crumbles when life turns hard. Not the shallow kind you chase with distractions or momentary pleasures. This joy was rooted, planted firmly in something unshakable. Even when storms raged, she glowed. Not because she denied life's hardships, but because she had learned to rise above them and to smile in the rain. Her joy wasn't something that depended on easy days or perfect circumstances. It was anchored in a good and faithful God, the kind of anchor that holds fast even when life's storms rage. She didn't need everything to line up perfectly in order to find a reason to smile. Her peace wasn't built on what she could control. It came from a place deep within her soul, a place the world couldn't reach or shake. And when a woman lives like that, her life isn't just attractive, it's holy, it's rare, it's unforgettable. But perhaps the most surprising, the most captivating thing about her was her wisdom. She didn't just speak to fill the silence. She spoke with clear purpose, with words carefully chosen to bring light and life. She didn't waste breath sharing empty opinions or shallow judgments. Instead, she offered insight born from years of patient learning, humble reflection, and discernment, sharpened by both joy and trial. Her words carried weight because they were forged in the fires of experience. They weren't just sounds. They were seeds planted to build others up. She didn't live solely for herself or her own comfort. Her vision reached beyond the walls of her own home. She carried a kind of quiet, powerful perspective that could build legacies, influence communities, and shape generations yet unborn. She wasn't loud or boastful about it. She never needed to be. But when she did choose to speak, it became clear to everyone listening This was a woman who drew from a deep well of wisdom. She knew exactly when to offer a word, when to keep silent, and when to simply stand tall in truth, without saying a thing. And that's exactly why she was unforgettable. She was a woman of grace, not the fragile kind, but the kind rooted in unwavering strength. She carried conviction that didn't bow under pressure. She showed compassion that touched the deepest wounds of others. She radiated joy that couldn't be explained by circumstances alone. And she wielded wisdom that changed hearts. She didn't just pass through life unnoticed. She left a mark wherever she went. She didn't have to try to be remembered. She simply was, and men, no matter how hardened or distracted, couldn't help but lie awake at night, thinking of her, moved by the way she lived. There is a kind of woman who steps into a room, and even before she says a single word, something shifts in the air. Not because she's loud or demands attention, but because she carries something this world has nearly forgotten. Grace. True, timeless grace. A dignity that isn't showy or puffed up with pride, but quiet, steady, and sure. Her very posture speaks before her lips ever do. Her silence often says more than 1,000 noisy words ever could. She doesn't chase applause because her spirit is anchored far deeper than any passing praise. She isn't trying to impress, she's simply walking in what she knows is right. And men notice, but they don't notice in the way the world trains them to chase or consume. They notice in a way that makes them stop, reflect, and remember. Because when a woman walks with authentic grace, she doesn't just catch eyes, she awakens hearts. She reminds them of something real, something rare, something worth fighting for. Yet her grace is not without backbone. This is not a woman who bends with every passing breeze or shrinks when others disapprove. She is not a leaf tossed aimlessly by the shifting opinions of the crowd. Her conviction is solid as bedrock. She knows what she stands for, and she does not waver. She doesn't compromise her standards to gain affection or approval. While others adjust their values to stay liked, she stands rooted in unchanging truth. And that firmness rooted in love, never in arrogance, is what makes her rare beyond words. When a man meets a woman who refuses to trade her soul for comfort, he cannot help but examine his own foundation. He wonders what he stands on, what he would be willing to bend or break for. She doesn't argue to win points or shout to be heard. She lives in a way that reflects truth itself. And that silent, steady witness speaks more powerfully than any speech ever could. But don't mistake her strength for coldness. Her hands are tender, ready to comfort. Her eyes are soft, able to see past masks. Her heart is open wide, willing to embrace others as they are. She carries a compassion that cuts through the noise of this hardened world. She sees pain where others only see inconvenience. She responds with mercy where others simply move on. Her kindness isn't a sign of naivety. It's the result of being refined by the fires of hardship. She knows what it means to hurt, so she's careful and gentle with the pain of others. Her compassion isn't a performance meant to be seen. It's a posture, a way of life. And that's what disarms men who have built walls to protect themselves from shallow affection or conditional love. She breaks those walls not with force or manipulation, but by being real, present, gentle, and deeply unforgettable. Her joy cannot be explained away by good luck or smooth sailing. It's not the shallow happiness that fades the moment trouble knocks. It's something stronger, something that holds steady through every storm. Her joy is forged in faith, nourished by a clear sense of purpose, and resilient even in the fiercest battles. You see it in her laughter, a sound that rises like a song even when life tries its hardest to silence her. After all, it was her unwavering joy and steadfast strength that left a mark on every heart. But there was something even more captivating waiting to be revealed. You see it in her quiet ability to find light in the darkest of places. She doesn't pretend pain doesn't exist. She acknowledges it fully, and yet she rises through it with a grace that defies despair. That kind of joy, unshakable, radiant, tested by hardship. It doesn't simply fade when the moment passes. It lingers in the mind, etched into memory, like a light that keeps glowing even after the sun sets. A man may forget a woman's fleeting smile, but he will never forget the unbreakable strength that shines behind it. And when she speaks, her words carry more than sound, they carry wisdom. Not just clever phrases or popular opinions, but true, weighty wisdom. Wisdom that is grounded in timeless truths, refined by experience, and tested by the fires of life. She doesn't speak just to hear herself or fill silence. She speaks with purpose, and her words build. Each sentence lifts others up. Each insight plants seeds of hope, of courage, of faith. She speaks not just with today in mind, but with generations in her heart. Because her wisdom isn't kept only for herself, it's a gift for those around her to create, to protect, to prepare for what's coming. She doesn't need to shout to leave an impact. She isn't loud or flashy, but her words and her life have staying power. Long after she's gone, her influence remains echoing in hearts and minds. And men who cross her path realize almost immediately that they've encountered something sacred, something not easily explained or forgotten. Yet perhaps the final thread, the one that haunts the soul long after everything else has faded, is her mystery. A beauty so deep it refuses to be defined by simple words. A softness so sincere it never becomes weakness. A presence so authentic it can't be copied or imitated no matter how hard the world tries. Because while society may attempt to replicate her essence, to mass-produce what she carries, to sell a version of it in neat packages, the eternal cannot be manufactured. She is not a trend that will fade with the next wave of fashion or the next viral moment. She is timeless. She embodies something older than any passing style, something truer than any cultural script. She reflects what is eternal, a rare glimpse of the divine woven into human form. And when a man meets a woman like her, he doesn't just see a person. He catches a glimpse of what he was created to cherish, to honor, to protect with everything he has. And he knows deep in his bones that he will never forget her. Not now, not ever. For what makes her unforgettable is not just her beauty, not merely her kindness, or even her courage. It is the way she carries all these things together: grace with strength, compassion with conviction, joy with resilience, wisdom with humility. She embodies a quiet power that refuses to shout for attention, yet commands respect wherever she goes. Her life is a living testimony that faithfulness, integrity, and love are stronger than any storm. She doesn't chase the applause of the world, and yet those who meet her are left in awe. She doesn't strive to prove her worth, and yet her worth is undeniable. She doesn't seek to control hearts, but hearts are drawn to her light. Because everything about her speaks to a truth this world is starving for, that goodness still exists, that grace is still powerful, that hope is still possible. And so when the years pass, and memories of fleeting faces fade, when words once spoken are forgotten, and crowds disperse, one thing remains: the quiet, unshakable presence of a woman who knew who she was and walked boldly in it. A woman who didn't bend to every opinion, who didn't sell her soul for temporary comfort, who loved deeply without fear. A woman who reflected something eternal. Because in the end, it's not noise that leaves the deepest impression. It's not the showy, the loud, or the demanding that stays in our hearts. It's the gentle, the faithful, the steady, the woman who stands strong in storms, who speaks truth with kindness, who carries joy that cannot be shaken. It's the woman whose life reminds us that what is eternal can still be found among us. And that is the kind of woman no one can forget.